There will be times when you are using ActionScript where it will be necessary to create text using the code. Now, there are a few different ways this can be done. One of the ways that's probably more popular is the ability to create a dynamic text box on your stage, and then from there going into the ActionScript panel and coding out the numbers that you want to appear, or the letters I should say, that you want to appear in the dynamic text box. There is another way, which I will be showing you in this lesson, and this is probably a good lesson to start with just because it'll give you an idea of how to make things appear on your stage using ActionScript. So the first thing we need to do is click on the ActionScript 3.0 document, so we have that created. And now we will of course need our actions panel. But first, just to practice, let's rename the layer to actions so that we have that labeled. And we'll click on frame 1 and then go to Window and Actions. So now our goal is to create a text field using nothing but ActionScript. The first thing we'll want to do is define a variable. A variable is basically something that you define, which can then later be to include something else. So you could say, I want my variable to be a text field, and then you can name the text field, and then later on you can be like, okay, so I want this text field to do this. It's basically a basic example of what you can do with a variable. So in order to type a variable, we'll need to type out var or var. And then from there, we want to name the variable. And this can be any name you wish. It's best to have, I would say, not complicated, but complete names for your variables and anything that you do in ActionScript, because it will help you in the long run when you're trying to go back and decipher what you wrote. Let's say you wrote something down and then months later you return and you're trying to figure out what my stuff is for a variable. It's not very descriptive. In this case, we have only one text field, so naming it my text is appropriate in this case. So we'll name it my text, and then I will use a colon, and then here, like before when we were doing the trace statement, this is basically giving us all of the things we can do right now to define this. So what are we going to define this variable as? Well, we could scroll through and try to figure it all out, but since we know we wanted to do a text field, we'll just simply type in text field. And you can see, as I type it, it kind of locates what we're doing here as far as what we want to do. For right now, I'm just going to type it out like this, and then go equals, and then text field, and then two parentheses, and then a semicolon. Now you'll notice as I typed all of this out, as I basically imported the text field variable type, Flash automatically put in a line at the top here that imported that command or function basically. So basically Flash imported what it needed into your file so that the file will work properly. So 9 times out of 10, you won't need to put these import statements in yourself. Sometimes you will, but a lot of the times Flash will know what you're typing out and import them in for you automatically, which is very nice and can save you some time and headache when trying to figure out what to import and what not to. So now we have the variable and we know it's a text field, so next we need to define what this is going to do. So if we type in my text, because that is the variable name, dot text, and now we're going to have this equal in parentheses, because remember we wanted to basically display something, kind of like we did with the trace statement. This is some text. And then we can close off that quotation, and then a semicolon. Now finally, we, to this point, have said, okay, we have a new text field and it's going to display some text, is basically what we have defined here. The one thing we have not done is place the text field on the stage, which we are going to do right now with a simple command called add child. So all we do is type in add child, small a, capital C, And you'll know you're doing it right if it changes blue. And then parentheses, we will put the variable name because we want to add the variable, which is a text field, to the stage. And then we close out that parentheses and we put in a semicolon. So, looking at all this, it should work out. We should be able to define this variable, make it a text field, and then import it onto the stage. We can click the syntax checker, make sure everything is good, although that doesn't always catch the errors until we actually test the movie out. But once we have done that and we are satisfied with the code, we can go to Control, Test Movie, and Test. Yep, and I already have an error. See, with only 3 lines of code, I already got an error. It's kind of embarrassing, actually. Oh, I see what I did. You have to put in new text field. We have to define it as a new text field. A brand new text field that will be imported onto the stage. I apologize about that. Okay, let's give it another shot. Control, Test Movie, and Test. There we go. Finally figured it out. Okay, so we have some text here. This is some text. So this worked out. And that's all you really needed to do. And as we get more into the basics, I will be kind of going into a similar function with movie clips, and we'll learn how to position these items onto the stage. Meaning, it won't just be here, we could center it, and so on. So we'll figure all that out in an upcoming lesson. But that is how you would add some text to the document.